Main Street Media and KMMU.org. Looking forward to being with you for the next basically 2 hours. Looking forward to being with you. I've got two guests today joining me. The first and most important one is the one that I'm going to be having joining me here in just a moment. And I'll be bringing him aboard. But first, this is Talk with John on KMMU. You can reach us on our Rumble, Twitter link. We're on Twitter Live and YouTube Live. So you just go to KMMU or Main Street Media Utah and you'll be able to find us. Look forward to being with you today and look forward to interacting with my two great guests. All right. So first, before we go any further, let me real quickly do my more normal show introduction. And we do have my guest up here, as you can see. But first, I want to give out my show mantra and my show prayer. First, the show prayer. Now, no need to bow your head, close your eyes. It's just the prayer of my heart, folks. I hope my show is a gift back to my forefathers, the founding fathers, and may it be an acceptable token to our Father above. And that's the show prayer, the show mantra. Where there is liberty, there is the Spirit of Christ. Where the Spirit of Christ is, there will be liberty. And the greater the Spirit of Christ, the greater liberty will be. Taken throughout places of Scripture, but also taken from Article 7. All right. And joining me right now, I have Joe Penland. JoeFromTexas.com. JoeFromTexas.com is his website. And I am looking forward to being with him again. I think this is the first time I've had you on Main Street Media Utah, but you've been with me on K-Talk Radio several times, and always been a great interview, great person to have aboard, and we're looking forward to being with you here today. Joe, thanks for your time, and thank you for joining me.
I appreciate it, John, always. Thank you.
Well, Joe, your mantra is... And actually, let's go back to a little bit what brought you in life to this point. If I remember correctly, you were involved in oil, made some money through oil, and you wound up deciding it's time for me and my grandchildren, it's time for my country to get its fiscal order in place, to get its fiscal world in place. This initiative started at least a year ago, if not a couple of years ago. I want to say I interviewed you back, it was either early 2024 or 2023. So you've been at this for a little while. Am I remembering things properly, Joe?
Pretty close. It's been going a little over 2.25 years now. And yes, I have been in the oil and gas business as far as construction in that field, made a little bit of money, and I have children and grandchildren and a wife, and we're healthy. And this country financially is not healthy, so we thought we better get involved and see if we couldn't bring that attention to the American voters.
So let's talk about Biden. You said you started over about 2.5 years ago. What made you decide you want to do this initiative? And then you went out and spoke with a lot of people. You've been with Tucker Carlson. You've been on Fox. You've been on a number of newscasts, number of news programs, trying to get your message out, and you started with Biden. What do you think Biden did financially for or not for the country? What do you think? Do you think he did anything well? And if not, what mistakes did he make? And then we're going to go to, all right, what are you seeing with Donald Trump? So let's start back in Joe Biden's presidency. What were your thoughts?
Well, he shut down the drilling in this country almost immediately, shut down the Keystone Pipeline, opened the border wide open. So he just started making one bad mistake after another. Inflation started getting out of control. So then we had to raise interest rate to try to get inflation back under control, because they were spending so much money with the Green New Deal and all of his other initiatives out there, trying to get this green thing shoved down America's throat when we are the leading producer of oil and gas in the world, and we just set that aside and forgot a business that this country has thrived on for over 100 years. He's put this country in such a financial horrible situation, and then letting all the people come across the border. I think most of his presidency was a failure, but I won't say all of it. I'll just say most. So I thought, you know what? enough is enough. You know, the old gentleman needs maybe not to be reelected, hopefully, and we need to get somebody back in here that's got the backbone to hopefully keep World War III from being launched around this country, around the world. So that was some of the main things. I'll just sum it up that way. And somebody need to get out there. I think, you know, the politicians talk with one another, and, you know, there's celebrities come in and help, and that's good. But you know what? There wasn't a good old boy to get out there and speak to the American people. Maybe that's where I come in.
Well, I would definitely say you fit the old boy, the good old boy standard. Yeah, we definitely need some good old boys. So one of the things that I remember speaking with you about when you first came around was the national debt. What are your thoughts on the national debt underneath Biden, and what does it look like? What do you think what do you see happening now that we have Trump?
Well, you know, we predicted the $36 trillion early on. Dave Walker, the former Comptroller General of the United States, worked with me when we were preparing our contract from the American people. So when we went out on tour with Tucker and everybody, that was what we was able to hand out to people with 10 points on that was vitally important to this nation. But it showed me real quick early on that Biden was completely lost on the economy and completely lost on a lot of things in this country. I think that single-handedly, their administration, especially going to the Green Deal, what they did hurt this country tremendously. And now we're going to have to dig out from under it. So I think now with the new administration, we have a chance to breathe some new life into this country, into the world.
Well, Joe, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on what do you see Donald Trump doing as far as the national debt? Do you see him making good moves? So part of the counter for Donald Trump was, you know, the national debt started zooming underneath him.
It did. The first 3 years he was in there, we did not spend $1 trillion over what we took in. The first time in American history that we spent over $1 trillion more than what we took in the first 4 years under Obama. So, you know, when Obama was in there for 8 years, he spent a little over $10 trillion more. That the debt went up by $10 trillion. So Trump, I thought he was on about the same path Clinton was on. You know, Clinton's first 4 years, he did not balance the budget, but he got in and he made some changes. He made some changes with some reform. He made some other changes. Him and Newt Gingrich worked together, and they got some things established that really got this country back on track. So his last 4 years, we had a surplus for 4 years, balanced the budget and paid it down twice. I think Trump was kind of on that same thing, but you had to get back to manufacturing this country. You had to get back to making things happen. We got energy independent. We was a net exporter for oil. We had this country humming. The interest rate was low. Employment was up. When you come in under another administration, you have to take about 4 years, just like Bill Clinton did, and get your ducks in a row. And I think we were poised for that when the China virus arrived. And then after that, the rest of it's history.
Well, I'm glad you bring the China virus up. And unfortunately, one of the problems happened, at least in my opinion, is Donald Trump bought into it hook, line, and sinker. Now, bottom line is, it seemed like everybody around him was lying to him. In fact, his instincts at the very beginning, I actually think were really good. He said, we're not going to shut the country down. At the very beginning, he talked about different therapeutics besides coming up with different jabs, as it were. And so at the very beginning, his instincts were really good. Bottom line, I hope that we have those same instincts with Donald Trump moving forward. So let's also bring up Social Security underneath Joe Biden. Let's talk about that. How do you think that is handled? And then let's now move forward to Donald Trump and your thoughts with Donald Trump and how it looks like he's going to be handling Social Security and so forth.
Well, Joe Biden said he wasn't going to touch Social Security. That in itself means you're for a 25% cut in 8 years. I think Donald Trump will take a different approach. I got to visit with the president very briefly about Social Security. I'm hopeful that he'll take a page out of Ronald Reagan's book, like Reagan did in 1981, and put a commission together to come up with some solutions to Social Security. We got to cut the fraud and the waste and abuse out of what we're spending. And we have to bring back manufacturing. But the only way you can save Social Security is there's 2 or 3 things you have to do. You're not just going to wish it done, and you can't cut enough out of spending to balance our budget and help Social Security. We've got to get more workhorses pulling this train for America. That means we need another 10, 15, or 20 million people working in this country to pay into Social Security, pay taxes, buy food, pay rent, help this economy. We don't have enough people working for the size of this country right now. We've got too many people. The government has promised too much. It's grown too big, and we subsidize too many. You talked about Donald Trump bought it hook, line, and sinker. Donald Trump's not fishing anymore. He's filleting now, and we're going to thin this thing down.
While there was some of us, I admit it, I was luckily able to speak with a number of leading medical minds. Peter McCullough was one of them. Jim Meehan, unfortunately, who has passed on. Dr. Lee Merritt would come on and share with me the numbers and say, you know what, the numbers just aren't adding up with this. On top of that, but the thing is I was able to go out and find them. He had people that had been in government for years. And this was one of the things that I think Donald Trump just was not used to, that he now seems completely understanding. He comes from the business world. In the business world, hey, when I come in, even if people don't agree with the way how high I'm going to build the building, even if people don't agree that of some of the things that we're going to have in the building, some of the paint scheme or whatever it may be, everybody goes about trying to make it the best way they possibly can. Save money, maximize profits. We're all heading in the same direction, even if we don't necessarily agree with some of the minutia. Come to find out, he found out there were people that were actively, he would be given, hey, this is the way we need to head. He found out that people were going completely 180 degrees against him, right? So that is something that I'm really grateful seeing with Donald Trump, is he seems to have that figured out and understands, okay, there are some people that are totally out to get me. Let's get the right people in place. And it's good to hear that he's listening to people such as you, Joe. Joe, you've been, like you said, for 2.5 years, spending your own money and putting your own time to make this happen. We are truly grateful. Now, folks, I want to mention his website again. As you can see in the background, you see the Joe, there's 4texas.com is his website. Joe4texas.com is his website. Folks, you want to go there. He's got 10 points that he has. So you can go to contract from the American people. He has 10 points. So another thing that he wants to work on is inflation. He wants to secure the border. He wants to support enforcement of the laws and energy policies. Now, we've talked about a lot of these things. We haven't really hit much about the border. How do things go? How does it seem like things are going down in your neck of the wood there on the Texas border? How do things seem to be progressing since Donald Trump got in versus what was happening with Joe Biden?
Well, Donald Trump's doing what he said he would do. Donald Trump's made promises. He got elected. He's got a mandate. The American people want him to do the things that he promised he's going to do. I think we see that already. He's got a brilliant team. He's got 4 or 5 people on his team, a couple of Democrats, a couple of Republicans that could be president themselves. Look at Mr. Kennedy. Look at Vivek and JD's right there. He's got some smart Tulsi. He's got some smart people on his side. And he's got some real strong Democrats that came over to his side. When I visited with Mr. Kennedy in Las Vegas, I said, I applaud you for your courage to not only take on one party, but to take on both. He called me Mr. Penland. We got to Bobby and Joe a little later in the meeting. He said, I can't wait 8 more years to try to help America on what his belief is, that we're too heavy, we're too sick, we're too lazy, or whatever the case may be. America is suffering from a lot of things that's eating on our ability to be healthy. And he wants to correct that. And he said he had to go the way he went. And he said, you know what? He said, my family has deserted me. But I tell everybody, I did not leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left me and left America. So he's got some great people. I applaud him on a lot of what he's going to be doing. No president has more on his plate other than wartime than what Donald Trump has right now. We're in the worst position we've ever been financially as a nation. We're very sick. The healthcare is eroding our budget. We know that. We got people that are living, thank God, because of technology, we're living a lot longer. Social Security was set up for us to all to die before we were 60. We're living to be in our 80s. We've outgrown it. It needs to be reformed. There's things that can be fixed. And I applaud you on the way you start your show when you say your prayer. Let me give you one little quote from Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan said, if we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we'll be a nation gone under. That's why this country is suffering. We're split. We're not one nation under God anymore. We're a split nation. We've got to come back together, and I think Donald Trump can be the man to pull that out.
Well, do you mind if I bring up another scripture that I think you, in a way, are doing? And I want to bring up a scripture that it's about a nation. It's from the Old Testament. If you don't mind, I share it because
please
I
do.
think this is one of the keys to fixing our country, and Donald Trump is really doing it in a way. Another thing that I love that Donald Trump is doing is he's talking about God. He's mentioned Jesus Christ a few times. J.D. Vance mentions Jesus Christ. I think that's huge. Now, let me be clear. As an American citizen, I don't care what religion I do care what religion you belong to. But if you happen to not be Christian, that doesn't mean I want you out of my country. We still want good people here in the United States. But the bottom line is we're a Christian country. But I want to mention something that, and this is something that is a key point on what I think you're doing, Joe. I think you're talking about doing this key point, and I want to mention it. 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face. So humble, part of that means is just saying, hey, we've made a mistake. Pray, definitely we're doing that. Seek his face and turn from their wicked ways. Then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and I will heal their land. So what's the key? Even if you're not truly Christian, what does that mean? Admitting your errors, saying I'm wrong, or saying that we've made mistakes. Then go about correcting them and trying to forgive one another, and then try to head in the proper direction to get things done right. At the very least, if you want to take a non-Christian view, but anybody, if you want to correct your mistakes, that's the way to do it. Now, frankly, I think we've been sinning. I want to talk a little bit about the border. One of the things that we're doing great on the border, I think, is we're saying no illegal aliens that are coming through the back door, trying to sneak into our house. And the best thing that we're doing is getting rid of a number of these illegal aliens that have broken the law, some other place, or broken it here, and we're getting rid of them and sending back to where they came from. Your thoughts on that, Joe? What's the border looking like?
Well, we always need to control our border. We're a nation of immigrants, and that's okay. We've been doing that for 150 years or longer. And you have to have a border intact where you can control the flow of people, the amount of people, and the quality of those people. We've thrown that away for 4 years. We have got to secure the border. We've got to get rid of the worst of the worst. There's no two ways about it. There's a balancing act. You've got people, John, that's been in this country 15 or 20 years that came on a work visa. The only thing they've done wrong is overstayed their visa. They've been living in this country. They've been working. They've been pouring concrete, putting down blacktop, doing a lot of hard jobs, paying taxes, and paying in Social Security that they're never going to draw. They're subsidizing our Social Security right now. There's a lot of good people in this country, and they're God-fearing people. Talk about their faith. You know what it is. I won't point it out. But these are good people. All they want to do is feed their family and hopefully become an American someday. They overstayed their visa. They didn't come here legally. They were vetted by the American government. They were vetted by Mexico. But when they went back, then a lot of them wasn't able to get back here for one reason or another. When you get a taste of America, when you come from a third world country, don't you think that'd be hard to go back? Now, those people are scared, God-fearing people, that they wasn't going to be able to come back and feed their family and progress. They're not wanting to take this country over. They just want to work and take care of their family and be a part of this country. We don't have to make them citizens. But who hasn't overstayed something? Parking meter or whatever, you've overstayed something. Okay, it'd be bad to have to be thrown out of your town because you overstayed something. Those people, that's the only thing they've done. You know, there is a law on our books, John, the registry law. Okay, and we can move the registry date. The last time it was moved, I go back to Ronald Reagan. He moved it in 1986. He moved that date up to 1972, which meant if you were in this country illegally before 1972, but you've been here 10 years consecutive, didn't have a criminal record, was good moral standing, and had a job and wasn't dependent on the country, you could stay. Think about it. If we deport 15 or 20 million people that's working in this country, that's going to devastate our economy too. So I applaud Trump for saying we're going to get rid of the worst of the worst. And I think now anybody that can't prove they've been here 2 years consecutive, which kind of gets the cartel out of the way there. We have got to take the cartel. We got to pull their teeth and make it where they're harmless. It's been brutal what they've done to the women and children and people coming to this country that just want to be God-fearing people and have a chance at life. So I applaud for closing the border.
Well, I'll tell you another thing is I actually happen to have family experience, extended family, that has been part of has immigrated. One of them is a citizen, another one's working on becoming a citizen. And part of the problem is the visa process. Sometimes they don't get people will hand in their paperwork to get their visa extended. They've been told, hey, yeah, we'll extend your visa. But the government doesn't do their job of extending the visa on time. So that's something hopefully we can get figured out before the end of Donald Trump's term. So I'm glad you brought that up. And yes, there are some good people that are here and have overstayed their visas, partially because it's the United States' mistake not getting that paperwork done. So, but let's get rid of the worst of the worst. Let's get rid of some people that were never here. Frankly, I'm going to say I really hope they wind up revoking birthright citizenship. I think that's a total proper thing to do. Unless you're born to American citizens, you shouldn't have automatic citizenship. So there's some things that we can do to really get immigration figured out. And I think we finally have a president that is ready, willing, and able to go about figuring that out. So we're coming up on 4:30. We got started about a minute or two late. I want to say thank you so much for coming on. Let me ask you, what are the last couple points that you want to make, parting comments that you want to make to our audience? And Joe, look forward to having you back as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And the main thing is don't lose your faith. We've got a breath of fresh air. And I think whenever Donald Trump got sworn in, I think the whole world was a brighter place to live. I mean, I think things will calm down around the world. You know, we've got a man that's got plenty of backbone. He's got more grit than anybody I've ever seen. He's been shot at. Somebody has tried to kill him a couple of times. They've drug him through the court. He's a multi-billionaire, but yet he's come out of his comfort level to try to save this great country. You have to applaud a man like that. You know, he is the John Wayne. You got Clint Eastwood, and you got a lot of good Western movie stars, but then there was only one John Wayne. There's only one Donald Trump. And you'll see he has more grit than anybody I know. And it's Joe from Texas, not far. Joe from Texas.
So sorry, Joe. Please forgive me.
I do. Joe from Texas. Okay?
Joe from Texas. Holy cow. I've got to write that down. Oh, my heavens. So Joe from Texas. And thank you to your people for catching that and letting know that I need to be corrected. So that's Joe from Texas.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. We look forward to having you back not too far off in the future.
Thank you, John. God bless.
God bless you. Take care and keep up the good work, Joe.
We'll do it. Absolutely.
All right. Take care, my friend.